All right. Now, your next comic is not only the headliner, but he's also the #3 best air guitarist in Detroit. Not a joke. That's the facts. Google it. Please put your hands together for Dan Adams.
Third best air guitarist. As you can probably guess, I'm not really good with ladies. I went out on this breakfast date with this one girl once, and before the date, as a kind of a preparatory, I ended up Googling conversations to have on a first date. So I'm on the date at breakfast, and then I'm sitting there with my iPhone, and I'm eating. Like, do you have any brothers and sisters? She's answering me. I'm like, so, what are your hopes and dreams? Would you like to save money on car insurance? Oh, fucking advertisements. I gotta redeem it now. She's like staring at me. I'm like, I'm a Nigerian prince. Yeah. So, I'm terrible with the ladies, but like, it's not that I don't get any action. I just have a little problem with like the opener, the follow through, and the closer. And the main problem is I don't have any game whatsoever. No game. I was at the grocery store the other day, and I was waiting in line at the Red Box to get a movie, and this one woman, or actually to return a movie, this one woman in front of me is getting a movie. And so then, like, I'm returning my film, and she's, like, walking away, and she's like, oh, what movie are you returning? And I'm like, The Fighter. And she's like, oh, that's a down movie. That's depressing. I'm like, no, it's kind of got a redemption. It's a good film. And she's like, oh, I can't watch any depressing films right now because I just broke up with my boyfriend, and he's out of town. I just moved into town. I'm like, oh, okay. No game. So I was at a comedy show the other week, and this beautiful girl, she was like sitting right in front of me. She's taking comedy stand-up classes too, and I'm hearing her talk to another person that's a student, and she's like, yeah, like I want to write comedy, like make fun of the Bible and like make jokes about God. I'm like, yeah. It's like, yeah, that's pretty cool. And then, like I said, making those kind of jokes, like you'll kind of like offend 85% of the audience. And she's like laughing, and so like we have a little conversation. I'm like, oh, great, awkward. Now I got to talk to her. And then, so like we end up, I clam up, don't say anything. And then she pulls out her phone, starts playing with Words with Friends. And then like I pull out my phone, I start playing with Words with Friends. I'm like, you know what? Like if I knew her name, we could be playing Words with Friends, like sitting right next to each other. This would be so cool. So throughout the comedy show, she kind of like looks back and smiling at me and stuff. And I'm like, this is getting strange. This is getting weird. So she finally ends up grabbing all her stuff, takes off, and like leaves the place. And I look down at the chair, and she left her jacket. And I'm like, I need to return her jacket. So I pick up her jacket, I run outside, and I hand it to her. And like she's kind of like, it's like I said, oh, you left your jacket. She's like, oh, thank you. And I said, no, you're welcome. And I went back in the show. But like, I could never rape a woman. Like mainly, I lack the upper body strength. And like, I have confidence issues. So like, I'm sure that like I'd be raping her, and she'd be like, you're raping me all wrong. The last guy that raped me was way more powerful than you. And all my rape fantasies, I rape Edith Bunker, so that's why I do that voice. So I tend to masturbate a lot. And for Lent last year, I ended up giving up the internet, television, and masturbation. Needless to say, how I celebrated Easter at 12 a.m. on Easter morning was not what Jesus would have done. But like religion has, big problems with masturbation. And like really, you're not hurting anyone. Well, if you don't get the belt off in time, you could, but thank you. So, my biggest pet peeve is netiquette. Netiquette is dead. Like, let's say one of your friends ends up getting a new phone number, a new email address. They send out a message to every one of their friends, blasting out like, oh, I got a new phone number, I got a new email address. They send out a message to everyone, and everyone's email address is up in the top area in the two. So now everybody's email is up on blast. Fucking annoys me the hell out of me. So my landlord ends up sending out a message to every single one of the tenants in the apartment complex I'm at. And I'm like, everybody's like, hey, check out my son's new internet business. He's got this great new site. I want you to check it out. I'm like, this is fucking, I hate this. This is so much bullshit. And I'm like, wait a second. I have terrible social phobia. I never talk to any of my neighbors. Here's all their email addresses. I'm going to meet my neighbors. So I started Googling their names. And like I'm looking online, and I find out one of my neighbors is actually a model. I'm like, that's so cool. That's really sweet. And I know it's kind of creepy, but I started following her on Twitter. Well, she didn't have a Twitter account though, so I set one up for her. I just like put where she is and like what she's doing, that kind of stuff. So that's my time. So I thank you very much. I'm Dan Adams.
And all the comics that you saw tonight. Please, one more time for all the comics you saw tonight. For Morgan Christensen, Jeff Berg, Tiffany Carter, Gary Hardenden, Spencer Crossland, Jack McDonald, Connor Glassberg, Chernold Edwards, Tim Lopez, Nia Iko Frano, Aaron Rapkin, and Dan Adams. A few orders of business. One, if you saw this show and think, I could do that, yes you can. If you go to westsidecomedy.com, you can find out information about stand-up classes and improv classes. Also, there's a whole calendar of other shows that go on here because we have stand-up shows, sketch comedy shows, improv shows, like everything that you need to know. Also, if you paid for this show, it's good for the whole night, so you can come back after you buy everyone else a bunch of drinks. You can come back and enjoy comedy, and so we're up here. All the comics that you saw performed basically for free, so go buy them a drink and tell them that they were great, all right? Thank you so much. Have a great night.